Hey everyone, welcome to Saturday Night Popcorn. This is Jason.
And this is Kai, and we have another great discussion for you today. The movie of the day is Annihilation from 2018. Still fairly new, but still want to
Yeah,
give everyone a spoiler warning.
yeah, that's true. And 2018 is not that far away, or not that long ago. But
It's
Annihilation,
pre-COVID era,
yeah, right. That was
which
before
is
everything changed.
it's a new world now. Yeah,
But yeah, Annihilation. This was pretty interesting. This one, it
yeah.
was funny because I was going into it. I was like, I've seen it so many times on Amazon that it was like offered through Amazon Prime and everything, and I was gonna watch it. But then when we finally set it up to watch it for this podcast, it was I had to rent it. I had like a little like whatever like money left over at Amazon, so it
Oh, the
was only like
credits.
79 cents. So
That's not bad.
it wasn't crazy. But I was like the one time I want to watch this movie, or like I'm actually trying to watch it, I actually have to spend my money on
That
it.
whole 79 cents.
Yeah, it's too much. Breaking the bank. But yeah, what did you think about this movie?
I think you hit it right on the head. Like it was interesting. Like I have notes. I think I have more questions as usual than likes and dislikes. Um,
Yeah.
it was interesting. I don't know how I felt about all the flashbacks. I don't know how if they were necessary.
Which flashbacks? Because
There were
there's
two sets. Yeah.
there's two sets of flashbacks. I kind of like when movies start off like the way it does. It like
Hmm.
shows the ending basically. Like she's
Yeah.
kind
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
like in this like people are watching her and like what the hell are
Well,
you doing here?
that was more of a flash forward. So those I didn't mind, like the flashback, flash forward when
Oh, that's
she's
true. That
in
yeah.
in the lab when they're like questioning her, like, how did you get back? I was totally fine with that. I was totally fine with that. It was the flashbacks of her. Most of them were just her having sex with her husband
Yeah, or that other dude, right?
or
The
her
yeah,
colleague. Yeah, which is like,
yeah,
okay, do you?
true. Oscar
The
Isaacs.
the thing was like the first interaction between her and that colleague when he grabbed her elbow. I was like, there's something else going on. So when they showed that flashback, I was like, okay,
Right? I noticed that too. I think nowadays, I guess in like the whole grand scheme of things nowadays, you do notice that where it's like,
yeah,
oh, like that's you're not supposed to don't do
that's an
that.
inappropriate touch, sir.
Yeah, and it was like it seemed very subtle and something that you could
Hmm.
miss pretty easily if you're not
Paying
you're
attention.
if you're paying attention to Natalie Portman's kind of like behavior where
Yeah.
you know something's wrong, but it does kind of allude to that like, yeah, he was like, oh, I kind of you're not gonna tarnish his memory. So you assume like Patty right away was like, oh, someone died. Like,
Mm.
and so we assumed that and I was like, was that like a baby? Like she said that she wants to like paint the room. I was like, it could be
Yeah.
like a nursery or something. But yeah, that was interesting to notice that. Like that was I didn't think that was gonna come back where that was gonna be a
I
thing.
didn't either. Yeah. I'm
Yeah.
happy it did because it was so quick. Like you said, like you could miss it because it was so quick. So I'm
Yeah.
happy they did bring it back. Like, oh, this is why he held her elbow and why he was speaking to her the way he was because they were doing something strange on the side while her husband
Doing
was gone for
things.
a year.
Yes. Yeah, for like a year, right? Like a
Yeah.
long time, or like on a mission, and
Mission.
and and then that kind of divulges itself and everything.
I,
But what do you think about the whole like him showing up? Like, did you think he was dead and were like, oh, did she just kind of like moved on and everything?
I almost thought it was a flashback. Like I thought because of how that scene was playing out, I was like, oh, she's just tripping right now. Like there's something going on in her head. She's so focused on painting that she's probably zoned out. And this is a dream. There's no way this man just moseyed right back in the house after a year and is just like, hey, honey.
Right? I thought he was a ghost. I was like, she's
Yeah.
just gonna like turn around and like not really recognize him and
Yeah.
everything.
And he just can't answer things, any of the
Yeah,
questions that she has for him.
yeah,
It was interesting. And then for him to just get all the way to the house and then instantly just start falling apart.
yeah. Right, and like it starts off with that drink of water and stuff, and
Yeah.
then it was like it was very subtle where he was like, "I don't feel good."
Yeah, like a little kid, like, "Hey, my tummy
Yeah,
hurts, mommy," and it's like,
yeah.
Okay." I did like that they had her drink water as well at the end.
Okay, I was gonna get to that. I wrote down that I think the cup of water. I
Hmm.
I kind of took that as almost like the spinning top from Inception. It was more of like a test. You as a viewer can see. All right, he had a bad reaction to the cup of
To
water,
water, yeah.
and then or like whether or not that kind of started the whole grand scheme of things. But then
Hmm.
I kind of that kind of falls apart in my head because like he's
The
all
eyeballs,
better after she kind of like destroys
yeah.
the whole
The
alien
shimmer,
thing. So like
yeah.
she even if she was sick, theoretically she would not be sick after like she kind of like completed
Hmm.
her mission. So the whole cup of water thing, I guess is that's the ambiguity of thing where like if she didn't, would that cup of water be a signification of like, oh, she could be a different person or like a different version of it? So I guess the whole question is that the ambiguity of like whether or not she's the other one or not.
That's what threw me off though. Was we watched the video of him blowing up. It's like, okay, that was her actual husband that blew up. So we know that she's interacting with the alien or the uh, refraction version of her husband. But with her, it seemed like she was able to potentially confuse the alien or whatever into blowing itself up. But then at the end, when they both had the shimmering eyes, it's like, okay, is she the real
Yeah,
her or is she the alien version or
I
the
was also
refraction
thinking
version?
like, was that initial guy that blew himself up
Hmm.
because he had an accent, and I don't
Oh,
remember
that's
him having.
right.
I was like, that doesn't sound like him. Where
Yeah,
and so I guess that's like the whole like I don't know like, but then also we see the thing that tried to shapeshift into Natalie Portman's character
that scene was
die.
hilarious. Yeah, yeah, exactly.
So we see that, but then why are her eyes shimmering? But then is that
Hmm.
the whole thing where like the DNA
The DNA had
of
changed
everything
already.
is kind of
Yeah.
changing? So it was very interesting. I liked in terms of like a like that I had. I liked the visual aspect of like the moment you went into the shimmer,
Hmm.
everything kind of like bloomed
Oh
and
yeah, had
everything.
like the haze.
Yeah, and you saw how much of the things are changing and stuff, and as they begin to like the first instance of how much things changed, you see
Yeah, the
with the
plants.
alligator or like the crocodile and stuff, and like
Yeah.
that first attack, but then you see the other portions where she's quoted as saying it almost looked beautiful at some sense where
Hmm.
but then you get the first hint of like the clones of things when the
Oh,
that
the
deer
flower people.
well like the deer thing where like she like
Oh
saw like
yeah,
and then there was like a white one and then like a
and
weird
the
tattered up
grayish.
one but then
Yeah.
they mimicked each other
Hmm.
and so I was like yeah and then the whole video thing where like they filmed like each other
Oh, and
like
they cut
the
the man
dudes
open.
cutting the guy open
Yeesh.
and stuff so
And then he put his
I
hand inside the guy. Like, come on,
yeah I was
man.
ready for them to like just like pull the thing
I
out
thought,
of
yeah, or
him.
slit his throat.
Yeah, so it was for me the story was interesting and engaging enough for me to like
Yeah.
I need to pay attention to this and I'm like asking questions to Patty next to me and I'm like because it was funny she knew that there was a weird time jump and they weren't making memories the
Mm,
moment Natalie Portman's character like woke up in the tent
yeah.
and she was like oh like this is like days later or something she was like
How
she's
the
not
heck did
making
she know
memories
that?
I had no I was like why
Yeah. What?
why'd you come to that
Like,
conclusion and she like explained to me that she looked disoriented and everything
yeah.
like not like disoriented that she's in like a different place it more looked like she like didn't know where like when she was and stuff and so
Mm,
I was pretty impressed by that I was like I had no
I
clue
would have
what's going
not. Yeah. I was just like, hey, she had a great nap and woke up and now
right?
she's confused. She just didn't have the lines on her face when I have those great naps. Like that was the only thing missing. I was very, I can't say angry, but yes, angry at the fact that they had multiple missions into the shimmer and they send this last group in with
Mm,
no protective face masks, no special suits, just like, hey, have at it, figure it out.
figure it
Hopefully
out.
you come
Yeah.
back. Like, breathe in the air, you're fine. That made no
Yeah,
sense to me.
I thought that too. Where it's like no, like they have guns, like but like you're
Yeah,
going into a place you don't know. Like do guns even work? None of them came back, so it's like
exactly. This one guy, and he's like
yeah,
on his last leg.
it's like, that's the true American way to do it. Just shoot things
Exactly.
until
I have to say my favorite part of the movie, or parts of the movie, and favorite characters were the animals.
You think?
Yeah, the alligator. I think I put alligator in my notes. It might have been a crocodile.
I don't know. Yeah, I
Um,
can never tell the difference.
yeah, the shape of the nose thing I always forget, but that scene was hilarious. Just them just moseying around, and then she gets grabbed,
She
and
got
then you see this.
snatched.
Yeah, see this huge animal come out of the water, and you're like, "Oh snap!" It has two mouths. You're just like, "What?" And then
Yeah, and the shark teeth and everything, like that was a good way to kind of show
yeah,
that like, oh, things are weird. Like, why is that happening?
but that fast though, like, how do you change a portion of this place that quickly? Like
Yeah,
the
right.
ecosystem that quickly? Like
And
that
then the
blew my
bear.
mind. The bear, that bear when he did the lady's voice that it murdered.
Right. I
Oh
wrote that
my
down as a question.
goodness.
I was like, dude, like, what do you? What's what? Why does that happen and everything?
Well, they said they kind of mentioned it, like maybe it was fusing with her as it was killing her. Like the DNA was passing through the blood or whatever it may be. So as
And
she's
like that was
screaming,
like the last
yeah,
thing that happened. Man,
I
that
just heard that
sucks.
voice of her in terror. I'm just like, I'm gonna use this. And that lady deserve, like, I'm so happy that happened to that lady. Uh, I think I put her name in here because I was so like,
The
oh,
one that was gonna
I love
kill them
this.
all.
Yeah, was it Anya? I can't even find it in my notes.
I just know it's the lady from Jane the Virgin.
Yeah,
I looked
yeah,
her up. Yeah.
yeah. Oh yeah, it is Anya. Yeah,
I thought she
'cause-
was like I was like at first I was like I thought it was Michelle Rodriguez, and I was like that doesn't sound like her. It looks. I was
yeah.
like, is that like a poor man's Michelle Rodriguez?
But yeah, she deserved that. Like, let me tie up all of these people because I found this photo of this man that's dying in the laboratory.
Yeah, I don't know why that's like that. Like in the grand scheme of things, I think if I was one of those people and I found out like, oh, like you're the spouse of that person that's dying, and you're
Yeah,
here, I don't know. Like, would that make a difference? It's like, okay,
it
like
shouldn't have.
you
Like,
must think like that guy's not going to survive, so you can kind
exactly.
of come in here and do whatever. But like they all had a thing,
Hmm.
like when they were rowing down, and so she was the other lady was saying that like, oh, like the psychologist they didn't know why she wants to jump into this whole shimmer thing, but you find out
Yeah,
that she's dying basically, right?
yeah.
She's like sick, and then the other one is like an alcoholic or used to be.
She was like, "That's the lady that was cutting herself, right?"
Yeah, one that harms herself, and then the other one that her like daughter dies or something, or like
Hmm.
she was like a dead child, and then wondering as to whether or not Natalie Portman's character, like what's wrong with her and stuff.
Did she have cancer? Because they had that whole, like, they touched on the cancer cells when she was in her classroom. Like, she was gonna have her students study this blood, but then that blood looked like her blood when she was testing it when she was in the shimmer.
I
So I
think
was
that was like
wondering.
just like her like that was her specialty. That like oh
Hmm.
cancer the way it like reproduces itself and like copies itself over and
Yeah.
over like how cells do and everything. I think it's just so that she's seen that. I'm wondering if like is the changes that are going on, would we see it as like a cancer
Hmm.
of the environment and stuff? And so like she saw like a portion of the wall and she was like it looks like tumors
Yeah.
and everything, like a growth of tumors. And so I think that was just a way to like show there's a
Kind of
reason
tie
why
them
she's
together.
there and everything and
Yeah.
her knowledge and stuff.
Okay,
But
that makes sense. That
yeah,
makes more sense.
it
Yeah,
was
because I was
interesting.
like, they showed this cancerous blood in the very beginning. She's a professor. I get that.
Right.
But then when she's there and she's like testing her blood, I'm like, okay, is she testing her blood to see if she has more cancer? Like, what's going on here?
I think yeah, like I think just like seeing as to whether or not like they were all afraid that their blood is going to start showing that they are having effects of being inside the shimmer and stuff,
Yeah.
and she pretty much confirmed that it's like
Hmm.
already kind of splitting and kind of looking weird and looking like cancer, I guess. Like,
Yeah. Shining.
but yeah.
I liked. I think you touched on it. I liked the found. I liked how they were able to blend in. I wasn't really a fan of the flashbacks, but I liked how they did it. How they blended in flashbacks with the flash forwards, with them like
Mm.
interrogating her with all that found footage in those cameras. I enjoyed
Yeah,
that.
yeah, that's actually like a good way to kind of like integrate a genre that you probably
Hmm.
would never believe in, like some of these in this movie and stuff. And it's a high quality movie, right?
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
and that's a good way to kind of show the story of like they didn't know what was going on inside of that shimmer, but these little bits, and for that someone to like actually record it and stuff and like actually document all that
yeah. And for it to not to have been destroyed or
and
disappear in some
damage or
way.
anything. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I was really surprised at like how well done. I remember I was telling Patty, I was like, I think I remember that this movie was not like well received when it came out.
hmm.
But I think now, I think people are kind of watching it with like a different lens, I guess, and like
After
are
COVID, yeah.
probably understanding like what the
Hmm.
story is about and stuff. Um, but in terms of like a dislike, I didn't like the ending. I didn't like how they kind of like this whole mimic thing, and then she
The ending
destroys
was
it pretty
terrible.
easily and stuff, and then
Yeah.
like the whole question of like it's like Inception, like you have like no clue whether or not he's in the
Hmm.
dream world or not, and this whole thing was like they don't know. You have the question of like her spouse is like all better now, and I'm
Hmm.
assuming the shimmer just kind of went away. So to
Yeah.
just do
Well,
all
she
those
burned
science
it.
people just
Yeah.
like go away?
I think so. Yeah. I guess I didn't put it as a dislike, but it was definitely a dislike. Like her going into that little hole, seeing the psychologist there, and the psychologist exploding, and then her fighting her.
Herself,
What is that?
basically.
Yeah, herself. Yeah, the refraction. That's the word I was looking for. The refraction version of her, and then the refraction version of her exploded, and then she was able to burn the shimmer, and no one else was able to do that before.
Yeah, right. And then, but I noticed in the like in the movements, because I noticed they the thing tried to mimic her as
Yeah,
well as possible, but it didn't match one to one. There was
It was
like
a little
subtle
off.
differences and stuff. That was a
Yeah,
little off, and I wonder if there was a point to that where it's like, oh, like it definitely it can't do everything correctly,
yeah.
but it can try and stuff.
It's not
I don't
perfect.
know,
That was the first
huh?
iteration.
Yeah, I guess so, right?
The second one, they got it. In the second one, they got
Yeah, there you go. I just like I don't know. I feel like the whole intensity of the story. I was like, the way it ended. I guess you have to find a way to end it, but
it. Yeah.
I don't know. I wasn't really too pleased with the whole like, oh,
Mhm.
we don't know like whether or not she's gonna live a normal life and stuff.
Well, now she has to relearn who this man is that she's married to.
Yeah, well, and well, that guy's not gonna care that she
Yeah.
cheated on him and
Oh yeah.
everything. Like,
He's like, what? I don't
so
even know what
basically,
that
all of her
means.
problems
Like,
went away. She could just
yeah,
like
she's good.
walk away from him. Like, who
Yeah.
cares?
If she wants to, yeah, honestly, yeah, she can be like, all
Yeah,
right, cool.
she really wanted to. Like that thing should not recognize her either, right?
Very
Like,
true. Because he asked her, "Are you Lena?" And it's like, oh, he doesn't know who I am.
yeah.
Like, okay, cool. Let's end the movie here. Yeah, that's 2 weeks in a row. Bad endings. I think this ending was better than the ending for the invitation, though.
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely.
The whole
I
vampire
think
hunter thing.
yeah, the invitation ended just horribly and everything, and almost like comically bad and everything. Like
Yeah.
it's just like, what's the point of it? Where this, you had to find an ending, and
Hmm.
but they did so well, kind of getting up to everything that like everything kind of just like it's almost like when you're playing a video game and you kind of know. I don't know if I said this before. Like you kind of know when the game is about to end because it starts to like kind of
Oh
quicken
yeah,
up and
the
everything.
pace changes. Yeah.
It gets too fast,
Hmm.
and then it's sort of like with this where it's like it just kind of got to like 100%, and then it just like ended,
Yeah.
and it was not satisfying for like what a 2.5 hour movie and stuff. It's like come on.
Yeah. Because it was like a lot of. It was a great build, like you were saying. Like it was a great build up. People were dying. She was traveling this vast land that was going to take her what 2 additional days. She gets to the
Something like that, yeah.
lighthouse. It's a bunch of dead body or a bunch of bones. She sees her refraction self, fights it, possibly kills it, and then the movie ends. And you're kind of like, all right, all this
Yeah,
build up for that.
and we assume that she's in there a lot longer
Hmm.
because Patty was like, oh, like yeah, like you said, like the walk was supposed to be like 2 days,
Yeah.
but the the guy, the scientist that was like questioning her, said that they were in there for like 4 months, and so that was like way longer than, and so that was like one of Patty's like like
Gripes.
thoughts about it, like oh they could have shown like there was more like lapses in
Passive.
time and everything
Hmm.
because it almost seemed like they just like went to sleep and woke up and then it was like everything's all normal and stuff like,
Yeah.
but you assume 4 months went by that there should have been like way longer lapses in time
I
for a lot of
wonder.
these things.
I wonder how they could have conveyed that though, because
That's true. I was like, I told
it's
her,
a
I was like,
nuance.
you did it the first time, and it's like almost kind of like repetitive if you keep doing it.
Yeah. Like, hey
Um,
guys, it's been 4 months. Like, what?
yeah, right. Like, and when you're in the moment, you're probably not gonna know. Like,
Hmm.
you figure it out, but then you just kind of go along with like the mission and stuff
Yeah.
and all that. But
Like, let's just get through this.
yeah,
Let's get to this lighthouse. I don't. So as she approached the lighthouse, I realized how creepy lighthouses were. After watching the movie Lighthouse, and then after watching this, I was like, oh yeah, lighthouses are super creepy.
oh, I haven't watched the movie Lighthouse.
Well, enjoy it.
Then I'm gonna know. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a good one, but yeah, it is. You're just like, yo, lighthouses.
Hey man, there's
So,
just one person there just hanging out.
yeah, uh,
Sounds like a pretty good job.
mm, maybe
But
now you don't even have Wi-Fi. Maybe like it may be a nightmare.
maybe I don't know. That's why Elon Musk is making the whole like space internet and stuff. That'll work out.
That's true. Then the lighthouse guys will be fun. They can
Yeah.
scroll TikTok all day.
What'd you end up giving the movie? I'm trying to find my rating. I'm like,
I I couldn't figure out what to rate this movie.
yeah.
Yeah, so I put on Letterboxd that I watched it, and I was like, man, I should give it a rating. And I was torn between like a 2.5 and a 3.
Okay.
Yeah, because I was like, okay, I enjoyed it. There was some questionable moments, but the bear and the alligator definitely helped put it over the edge. So yeah, I was kind of torn.
I gave it a 3.5,
Okay.
and I was like, I think I was more enamored by like the story of it and everything until it got to the end and it fell off the cliff.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then the visual and everything. It was a nice looking movie and stuff, and
Hmm.
I think visually it was a pleasing movie and all that. But then like once you kind of get to the end, where like the last like 30 minutes, just kind of like kills it for because I was on the fence of like a 4, and I was like, and then once that ending happened, it was almost like an imitation. You kind of had like a rating in your head,
Yeah.
but then
Something
once that
happens.
ending happened, you're like it's just gonna plummet
What is
and
this?
everything. And so I was happy with the 3.5. Patty was actually like, oh, like maybe like a 4 for
Oh wow.
her kind of scale
Okay.
and stuff. But I wonder on a rewatch, knowing as to how it ends,
Yeah.
does that
That's probably
change?
gonna decrease that.
Yeah, I think so, right? Like once you kind of like already gotten past like the whole like suspense
Yeah.
of the movie. Actually, one last point of the whole film. I told Patty at the end, I was like, I was actually almost shocked and like happy like the how gory it was. There was
Mm.
portions that it was like, whoa, that's pretty intense. And it wasn't to the extreme and almost like way out of place
Hmm.
like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie
Oh
that we
yeah,
watched, the newer one,
the newer one, which is blood
where
everywhere, just because.
yeah, it just seemed like it was whatever. This
Yeah,
seemed like it had a place, and it almost like added to the suspense
yeah,
of like what the hell's going on, and also that there's an alligator or
yeah,
crocodile
yeah.
trying to eat them, and there's a bear that literally ate one of them, and
And
then
has that person's
kills the other
voice
one.
now. Yeah,
Yeah, so it almost added, and then the whole film thing that when they recorded it, that
when
like
they cut the man's stuff.
yeah, so I think it added to the suspense and tension of the movie, and
Mm-hmm.
so it wasn't like crazy or gory, but it had
No,
some like it just added some extra to the movie, and I was pretty surprised about that because it's like a like I can only imagine going to the movie and you're like watching this movie like oh it's like a sci-fi movie, but
and then that
and then
happens.
you're like whoa like this is intense.
Yeah, because yeah, I don't. There's no way of like being ready for that, especially
Yeah,
that
right.
that found footage when they're cutting the dude's stomach open. I'm like, what the
Yeah,
fuck is gonna happen? And they cut this
right.
man's stomach, and I was like, oh, it's like I wasn't ready, but I'm happy they did it, but I wasn't ready for it.
Right. Yeah, but would you we can kind of like elaborate on the question, would you buy
Mhm.
this for your personal movie collection, and also would you recommend it?
I would. I think I would do both.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I enjoyed it enough that I would recommend it. I don't know in what context I would recommend it, but I would recommend it, and I think I would have it in my collection. Like it's something that you can toss on. It's not. I think it was like an just under 2 hours, but
Something like that, right?
it didn't feel that long as I was
No, I
watching it.
see.
Like it went
No,
by pretty.
I
The pace was really good.
yeah. Yeah,
What
I
about
would
you?
recommend it, but I probably won't
Mhm.
buy it.
Okay.
Probably knowing that like oh I've seen it already, and it's
Yeah.
like whatever and stuff now, like it's almost like when you know the story of book, probably like you're like whatever.
Yeah.
um but I would recommend it definitely if someone has like never seen it, and to the theme that we have of like strong female characters.
Mhm.
Natalie Portman kind of hit it out of the ballpark for this
No,
and
she
stuff.
killed it.
Yeah, there was a lot of Marvel people in this movie. It was funny.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Patty made note. She was like, "It's weird, like seeing Natalie Portman and the other
Oscar
person."
Isaac. Oh,
Um,
Valkyrie.
yeah, were like they
Before they were.
before they
Yeah.
got buffed up and everything for the
Hmm.
for the Marvel movies and stuff. And but yeah, I would definitely recommend it if you haven't seen it, and kind of like a sci-fi. What what would you kind of like say the general like
Sci-fi thriller.
like is a sci-fi thriller like
Yeah.
when I saw that thing when like that person kind of like they melded into like the pool and everything,
Hmm.
like we're talking about um Lovecraft Country, that
I
TV
love that
series
show.
on
Yeah.
HBO. But
Hmm.
that's like cosmic horror and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
um that's sort of what I kind of thought, where in this like looking at that
Oh, because there were
like a
aliens. Yeah.
cosmic horror type of deal.
Hmm.
But so yeah, I was like, it's some
Cosmic
horror
horror.
aspects because you're like
Yeah.
it's very tense, it's gory and stuff. So, but yeah, it's not too bad.
Yeah. All right. You want to finish up?
Yeah, want
Cool.
to close up.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us for another episode of Saturday Night Popcorn. I'm Kai.
And I'm Jason, and we'll be back next week for another one.